This time on Project Hardway, I really am polishing this turd. Now the first thing I've done is I'll wash the truck with some dish soap to try and get off any kind of polish or wax or anything that may be from the soaps that I've used to wash the truck in the past. That way I'm working with hopefully just the surface of the paint. What we're going to do first is down on the sides where there's still clear coat on the truck is we're going to polish it. I've got some Meguiar's Ultimate Compound Color and Clarity Restore. Okay, sure. And what I've done here is I've got this pretty nice snazzy DeWalt buffer, but it's the hook and loop style. I got my polishing pad underneath, and what I've done is I've slipped over one of these cheap Walmart buffing pads. 2 of these for $10. I'm not going for show car quality here. I'm just doing something that's probably literally never been done to the truck, and it'll be better at the end of it. I'm just gonna hit it with this stuff just to get it looking decent. If it can get out some of the scratches and scuffs that are on the truck right now, great. Otherwise, it's just gonna polish it up and make that stuff hopefully a little less noticeable. Now off camera, I've already done the left front fender just to kind of, get my practice back in. I don't do this very often. I've got it, but I don't do it often. So sometimes a little bit of practice makes perfect. Luckily, it's okay when you got something like this to practice on, because if you screw it up, well, look at it. Nobody's gonna notice. Nobody's gonna care, except for you every time you look at it. But that's okay, because that'll hopefully let you learn from your mistakes, or give you more experience trying to correct the mistake you made on it, and hopefully not lose too much sleep over it. So let's throw on the time lapse. I'll get you guys set up, and we'll zip around the bottom side of this truck, and then we'll move on to what we're gonna do on these areas that don't have clear coat. Alright, as I make my way around to the back of the truck, I've got a few things that are working against me. First, my own stupidity and lack of experience. Second, my little rig here with the hook and loop with the polishing pad, old polishing pad. It's got the buffing pad from Walmart wrapped around it. It gets unstable at the higher RPM. So I'm only able to spin this thing about 800 RPM. So I'm having to take it slow, make many passes. Secondly, the fact that I didn't get just I could have went to Harbor Freight and just got a cheap hook and loop, throw it on there pad. Should have done that, but I didn't. Anyway, so there's a lot of imperfections on the truck over there that require a little bit more of a grittier compound, a little bit better buffing pad, a little bit more attention to get rid of them. That being said, I'm not worried about it. The truck is what it is. It's an old work truck. So right now we're just making her shine. It'll have some things here and there, but that's okay. It's a little bit of its character. When you get around the corner here, go ahead, hit those taillights. They're faded anyway. Make them shine for a little bit. Back here, there is one thing I want to preserve on a little bit. It's this Chevrolet sticker. I kind of like that. It's faded, but I don't want to make it fade anymore. So I might hit it just a quick sink, shine it up a little bit, and then keep making my way around the truck. All right, coming around to the other side of the car, I'm gonna swap out my El Cheapo pad because, well, why shouldn't I? Now, if you're wondering why I'm not using the polishing pad that's under this, well, this is a little bit more textured and it's gonna cut a little bit harder and deeper than the polishing pad would. On a vehicle that's been well taken care of, the paint's not in bad shape like this one is, a polishing pad would be just fine, get that nice gleam back to your car. But for something like this, we need to cut into it a tick, just a little bit. Now we've gone all the way around the truck up to this point. You can tell here, I don't know if it picks up on the camera very well, but there is a pretty shoddy spray can paint job done over this fender that's done over a, pretty shoddy fiberglass repair. I didn't do the fiberglass, but I did do the rattle can. Not my best work, but it wasn't primer gray. So before we go any further, I'm gonna wet sand this. And over there in the drawer, I found a piece of 1,000 and a piece of 1,500. So I'm gonna start with 1,000, gonna wet sand this back and forth. And since I don't have a pad, I'm just gonna wrap it around this microfiber. Better than the finger grooves, I guess. Sandpaper's wet. Wrap it around here. And I'm just gonna start easing into it. Need some more wet. Got a little cup of water over here. Just dip my paper in there. Go back to it. I'm not looking for perfection, okay? Just a little more. Life beyond the Thunderdome. Now I'll keep doing that in this direction, a little more uniform, then I'll go back and go across it, and then I'll hit it with the 1,500 to smooth it out, then we'll be ready to buff it. Alright, so that's after the 1,000. You can see some X's in there, and it's hazy, but it's smooth. Now I'll hit it with 1,500 to make it a little smoother. And that's the 1,500 done. Whether or not it's better is subjective, but let's see if we can make it shine. Well, there's that thing all done up. You can see how shoddy the paint repair is. That's all under the clear coat. But that thing is shining now. And since we wet sanded that part, it's like glass. But it's certainly better than it was. And that little stuff right there, it'll just fit right in with the rest of the character of the truck. Now that that's done, all that needs to have on it now is a quick little dust off just in case some stuff's built up on it. And then we'll put a coat of wax on it. But before we do that, we've got to do something about the hood and the roof because they ain't got no clear coat on them. It's where this stuff comes in. This stuff is called sweet patina, patina sauce. It's a mixture of things that you put on here, and it's not a permanent solution, but it helps kind of protect this stuff to keep it from fading anymore, and it'll give it a nice satin kind of dull shine. You've probably seen this in many other iterations. Some people call it shine juice. This stuff I just happen to have because I bought it last year, put it on my 240SX, and it worked out really well. Now before I get into this stuff, I think I'm going to take a break because I'm starting to run out of time. So we'll catch back up on this tomorrow, and I'll show you what I'm going to do, lay this stuff down, and really make the truck look a whole lot better. So to get ready for this stuff, of course, before I pulled the truck in, I washed it with dish soap to get off the waxes and polishes and anything that might be on there from the good car wash soap. Now that everything else is done, went back over it and I scuffed it up just a little bit. You don't have to. You can just lay it right on top of there. But if your stuff's rough and you want to smooth it out a little bit, use an ultra fine Scotch-Brite pad, the little green ones. Don't apply any pressure because the more pressure you put into it, the more scratches you're going to leave behind. There are some light scratches here and there, but for this truck, I don't think anybody's going to notice or care. Alright, so it'll just look better in the end. Important thing here, read the directions on this stuff. It's pretty basic. You put it on, you clean, you put it on there, you let it set 15 or 20 minutes, then you take a clean microfiber and go back and wipe off all the excess. It's what you do when you're done that matters the most. So it says to soak it in water for 24 hours and then dispose of it. When I put this stuff on my 240SX last year, I just chucked it in a trash bag. The next day I was out here tinkering around with Virginia, my 1979 big block Chevy Camaro, and I went in the house. I came back out about an hour later, tinkered around some more, and then something smells hot. And I'm sniffing around and I'm looking around, and in that trash bag, it was real hot. And I looked down in there, I opened the bag, and it was smoldering. And I reached down in there and I pull out that rag from this stuff, and it was hot. It was turning black, starting to char. It was spontaneously combusting is what it was doing. If I hadn't come out here and been tinkering around with that car, probably would have burned my shop down. So, do what the instructions say. I soaked it with the water hose, popped it out onto the driveway for a day, and then chucked it in the trash. Very important. So, moving on. What we're going to do now is I'm going to take a clean microfiber. This one. We'll put some sauce on there. Wax on, wax off, baby. Oh yeah. Pour it on there, let it soak in a little bit. I'm just going to go back and forth. Look at that. Look at how it instantly just soaks it right into the paint and immediately starts to shine. And down here along that oxidation line, the oxidation line is still there, but it's nowhere near as visible as it was before. It doesn't take some of that white color out of it that makes it stand out. Now the instructions say to let that sit for 15 to 20 minutes and then come back with a clean cloth, buff it out real good. Now that that's had some time to sit, I went back with a clean dry microfiber and I wiped off the excess. It took away the hard shine, but it left it with a nice satin sheen. That's the finished side, and that's the not finished side. Maybe a little hard to tell on camera, but pretty significant difference. Makes it look a lot better than it did before without, you know, repainting the truck. And now it's got something on it that when it rains or when you wash it, stuff like that, the water is just going to fall right off of it. Kind of gives it a little bit of a beating effect like a wax, instead of the water just sitting on it like it does with this stuff. Now, of course, like I said before, it's a temporary solution. You got to reapply it every now and then to maintain that luster. But it's one of those things that can just give it a little bit more pop without having to go too far into, you know, respraying the truck or anything like that. Especially for something like this that, well, we could spend the money on other things, couldn't we? So, while that's done, I'll get this other side done. And while that's setting, we'll get into the waxing portion on the sides that, you know, are still shiny. All right, moving on now to the shiny bits. I got some off the Walmart shelf Meguiar's wax. Stuff's pretty simple. You've probably waxed your stuff before. Get out of there. Take the applicator pad. Get some of that stuff in there. Yeah, it's a fresh pad too. And just, you know, swirl it on there. You not too much, just a little bit, just to cover the thing just a tick. Make sure you get everything real good. You want to do that around the entire truck and let it dry to a haze. Most waxes are a deal where they say to let it set for like 10 to 20 minutes. So you can start here, and then if you just keep working around your vehicle, by the time you get done putting it on, you'll be able to go back where you started and wipe it all off. Don't let it set up for too long. Another thing, all right, the reason that we didn't just put wax all over the entire vehicle is that for areas that don't have clear coat, you got an oxidation line or you don't have clear coat at all, like on our roof and our hood, wax will soak into that stuff and stain it, and it'll be there forever. When I was 13 maybe, my dad bought my mom a 1994 Chevy Corsica. I know, right? Big time. Anyway, it looked like this truck, but all over. It was a blue one. He brought the car home and he throws me a can of wax. Says, hey boy, go out there and wax that car. I did exactly what the can said to do. And then it come out later and we're trying to wipe it off. White stains everywhere on top of the car. Wouldn't come out. My dad was mad, but didn't know any better. That was one of those things where we learned the hard way, right? So, patina sauce up there, wax on the parts that have still got the shine on it, and then we got a good looking truck. All right, one other note is that don't let the wax get on any black plastic trim or seals, especially around the windows. If you do, wipe it off immediately because that stuff will soak into it and dry into it and it'll have white stains. Of course, if you care about your junk at all, you probably taped that stuff up before you started detailing it anyway. All right, so we got a nice milky haze here. We'll just take a clean microfiber waxing pad. You can use a microfiber cloth, terry cloth, whatever. and buff that dry wax off of there. And look at that sheen. She is slicked up now and protected from the elements and stuff, because, you know, that's what we care about, right? No, just looking for a shine. Anyway, Alexa, play songs by Ghost.
Here's some music by Ghost on Amazon Music.
Well, now that she's all slicked up, before we roll her outside, there's a couple more things that need to be addressed. This cowl top panel, it's a 3-piece deal. It's all busted up, you know, brittle old plastic from the 90s. If you were to order this from a website that sells parts for these trucks, this little corner piece here is $60. That little corner piece over there is $70. This one, the middle one, $309. After taxes and shipping, that's $500 for a cowl cover on a truck that I paid $500 for. No thank you. So I went to the junkyard and I found one off of a newer Blazer in perfect shape, just needs to be cleaned up a little bit. So we're gonna pop that on there. And before we put it back, the windshield wiper arms, they were, you know, worn and weathered and rusty and crusty and dusty. So I took those off, scuffed them up with a Scotch-Brite pad, hit them with a layer of epoxy black paint, and then topped that off with a couple of coats of some satin clear. And now those will go back on there, and we'll roll her outside and see how she looks. Well, there we have it. Little green is all slicked up and looking better than it has in a very, very long time. And a couple of the other things that we've done today are going to be small little pieces that add up to what will overall be a great looking truck once we get done with it. So there's plenty more to come. We're not done with this truck just yet. Go back, check out some of the other stuff on the channel, like my big black Camaro. And remember, sometimes you got to do things the hard way.